focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
Good. Well, I'm so excited to talk with you, Ellen. Violette, right? Am I saying that right?
Violette.
Violette. Yeah. Okay.
Violette.
Okay, good. And I'm excited because you help a lot of inspirational speakers, coaches, founders.
Mm-hmm.
You help those people write best-selling books. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So not only do you help them write best-selling books, but you help them do it in 7 days. Is that right?
I actually helped them do it in 3 days. but
Okay.
the reason that it said 7 days is that the boot camp was 7 days.
Gotcha.
But the actual writing time is 3 days.
That's just wild. That's crazy. Okay. Well, I'm like, you really got my interest here. Like, I'm very, very interested. You're going to have a lot of talking to do today because we got to get into this. Okay. So you're obviously your #1 bestseller book to grow. You teach people how to grow their businesses, make a bigger impact, make more money. You have a podcast, Books Open Doors. Is that right?
I do. Yep.
Podcast. You're a multiple #1 international bestseller author yourself, 9 books, award-winning book strategist. Obviously you have your podcast, Grammy-nominated songwriter too. Is that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're pretty amazing, Ellen. You are
Thank you.
Superwoman, Ellen. Love that.
Actually, I'm not. That's what my husband says to me. He goes, "Oh, you think you're Superwoman?" Because I, over what? I'm a type A. I'm a recovering type A.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So why do you say recovering though? Because I'm pretty proud of
because
it.
I used to work all the time and not
Okay.
take care of myself, not get enough sun, not get enough water, just not take care of myself. And just, feeling like a production machine. And it was just wearing me out,
Totally. I get
Yeah.
it. And you know what? And I'm glad you clarified that because I love being a type A person, but I'm probably like you in the sense that I do take a lot of time off. I do take naps. I'm very, very conscious about time to have fun and do cool things. So but this is going to be an interesting conversation. If anybody wants to know how to write a book, which I'm in the process of right now, by the way. So this is actually even more interesting for me.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Did you do the marketing research first?
Did I do the marketing research before?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
I'm in the process of writing the book.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's what most people do, and it's backwards.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so tell me why it's backwards. Tell me what should people be doing when they're writing a book?
They should be doing the research first. I mean, it's actually really interesting because
when you say research, though, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you in a second, but I want to tell you a story first.
Okay.
I'm in an ad course, and what the guy said is what most people do is they'll go and they'll hire an expert, and then their ads don't work, and they spend all this money, and it's just down the drain. And I'm sure you've heard, like with doing ads, how, you have to test them and do a whole bunch of them and all this kind of stuff. Well, what he teaches is if you really understand the process, you can create one really good ad and in the planning stage and not have to spend all that money, number one, because you've dialed it in first. And number two, even if you do decide to work with an expert, you know your audience, you know how to connect to them, and you have to tell them what to do, not say to them, oh, just do it. Well, it's the same thing with writing a book. So many people, what they'll do is they come to me after they've written the book, and then we have to try to fit it in to see if it's going to sell. In other words, like, you should know what your call to action is before you write your book. I can't tell you how many authors come to me and they haven't even thought about it. It's an afterthought. And it's like, well, how are you going to lead people to where you want them to go if you don't know where you want them to go, right? So you don't know if you're writing the right book. That's number one. Number two is when you do the research first, you find out, what are people looking up? What problems do you solve? What are the words to use? I mean, you talked about me being a Grammy-nominated songwriter. The thing that really one of the things that makes me special is, first of all, I love word puzzles. I love communication. I love writing the right words because the words make all the difference. And like being a great copywriter is like the best skill that you can have. And most people, they don't do that research first. So they don't even know what the keywords are that they're going to want to use, maybe in their title. If not in their title, definitely in their subtitle. What about their chapter headings? What about throughout the book? Like, if I had this guy come to me once and he was so proud of himself, he'd bought all these domain names, like over 1,000 of them or something. And he hadn't done the research to see what version of the word people were looking up. And so the version that he had bought got 1/3 of the clicks that another version got. And so he'd already like gone for the wrong ones because he didn't have me do that. And that is also one of the things that I'm famous for, is doing that marketing research with my clients first. And whenever they come to me, regardless of where they are in the process, that's the first thing we do. And people will say to me, oh, what do you think of my title? And I go, I have no clue what I think of your title till I do the research and see what people in your niche are looking for. What do they want?
Oh, that's so good. Oh my God, Ellen, that is so well said. So the research is number one. The understanding the marketing, understanding your call to action.
Right. And your positioning. In other words, like what else is already out there? It's like when you go to Amazon and you put a book up on Amazon and they go to this page and they see all these books on similar topics, why should they choose yours? So it has to like speak to your ideal audience, but it also has to be slightly different in the way it's positioned from what else is out there. So for instance, I had a client who was a cardiologist and he was writing a book, and we went into Amazon. And one of the things I love to do is look at the bad reviews, because they'll tell you what they don't like and what they want that they aren't getting. And so they said things like, this diet is too rigid, I would never do this. And I would never listen to this person, they're not a health professional. Well, those were two things that his book covered. So those were the things that we needed to magnify in the title and subtitle. So again, I mean, and then the other thing is when you're writing the book, I love to write the title first, because you write the title first, you put it at the top of the page, and then everything you're writing under that, you're looking to make sure that it's in alignment with what you said your book's about, because that's another thing, people just get off topic. And so, yeah, it's doing the marketing research, it's having the right title. And then the third thing is the outline. So I can't tell you how many people, they don't write an outline and then they get stuck. And when I was doing the boot camp, if somebody got stuck, I would say, well, did you do the outline? And I think 100% said no, they didn't do the outline. I'll say, well, why didn't you do the outline? I don't know.
So why, I mean, obviously I understand the outline, but can you explain like why the outline really makes a tremendous difference?
Well, the outline, number one, it tells you what should go in your book, right? And what shouldn't go in your book, because you can see it very clearly as you go down the page. Does this make sense on this title that I said I'm writing? Does this make sense? And then is it a chronology? Is it in sections like emotional, physical, spiritual? Like what's the structure of this book? And then the more you fill in the outline, the easier it is to write. It becomes like fill in the blanks. I actually have a workbook. I only have the author's copy, but it's called Real Easy Ebook Workbook. And it literally says a step-by-step guide to take your ebook from idea to bestseller. And in parentheses, it's fill in the blanks. Because really, once you've got your outline, if you do it right, you just fill in the blanks. It's easy, but people don't do it. So I was talking to a colleague of mine not that long ago, and he had just written a book, and we were talking about this whole thing about outlines. And he said, "Oh, I didn't write an outline at first." And I said, "Well, I would love to know the psychology of why people don't write an outline." And he said, "Well, I thought I had it in my head." He goes, "But then when I started to write, I still started to get lost. And then I realized I had to go back and write an outline. So when people work with me, they don't have to go back because they do it the first time." So,
Love that. Love that. Love that.
yeah.
And so, we're going to dive into a lot of this stuff here. But I'm curious to know is like, where were you raised? Like, how did you get into writing books, and why was this your fascination? What were you like as a child? So tackle a few of those for me.
Oh boy. I was not a happy child. I was the perfect one. My brother was the funny one. So he made my mom laugh, and I just felt like I had to be perfect. And no matter what I did, it was never good enough. So that was that. And so I retreated into books like so many. And so
And where were you raised? What part of the country?
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. So you're down the street. I'm in Rancho Cucamonga. So
Oh, well, actually, I'm not there now. We're in La Jolla.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not that far.
Pretty close though.
Yeah,
close.
we're still in California. Yeah,
we're still neighbors. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so you retreated to books, and
yeah, and that was the one thing, the one connection I had with my mom too. She read to us, and it's so interesting how kids are different, because I loved it, and my brother was never a reader. Yeah. So
well, I mean, the truth is, I'm like an Audible guy.
mm-hmm.
I hated reading
Mm-hmm.
in school. I was a bad student, never got good grades. But it's interesting though, when you find a good book and you're trying to learn something in that category, how exciting it is for you though. The first real book I ever read was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, I don't even remember that. All I remember is as a little kid, I love Nancy Drew books.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, that was after high school though. I mean,
yeah, you're talking later, but I'm
talking later. That was my,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I didn't read very much at all. I mean, it was something that was, so you're this kid and you're like, okay, I want to get something that can connect me with my mom. And
right. But I was also, I mean, I didn't even know this was a thing, but I was also bullied. I was overweight, my teeth were crooked, and I wore glasses, and I was super smart. So I was ostracized in school. And at the same time, like, my dad was just, I mean, this one thing that just, I'll never forget, where they came to open house and my dad was just so uninterested, just, and my mom was like, Sam, take an interest. It was like, he was just not interested in, but at the same time, it was like, it wasn't like, oh, you got A's. It was like, oh, you got a B. Why'd you get a B? So, I mean, there was a lot of, emphasis on performance and education. I grew up in a Jewish family, professional. My dad was an attorney. My uncles were doctors and judges and that sort of thing. And so that was a trip. But like I said, so I was bullied, and Ellen Watermelon didn't help, that my name rhymed with that. And then when I was about 11, my mom took me to the doctor. And in those days, I can't believe what they did, but they put me on amphetamines to lose weight. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I lost the weight, and I got the braces off and, the whole 9 yards. And I started hanging out with, different kids who were more my intellectual level. And I continued to just do really well in school, but there was a lot of turmoil in my house, and I retreated into music. That was really my thing.
So you're a pretty good singer then, huh? You can
sing?
No,
I can't sing.
So you're a writer of music.
I'm a writer of music and a producer.
Sing the music. Okay,
no.
Gotcha.
It's perfect in my head, but God help us when it comes out. Yeah.
So let's dive into title. Okay. So you mentioned something about title, and it's like the everything. So when you think about formulating a title, okay, so we did our research, we did our homework, we went in and we, I don't know, do you go to like Google search ads or Google the most popular thing on Google? Like, where do you do your research and what are you looking for?
Well, the first thing I'm looking for is keywords. I'm looking for keywords.
Okay, so you're going to keywords then. Okay, all right.
Keywords, definitely.
And so you find a keyword, and then like, so what other little pieces are you thinking about when you're thinking about a title?
Well, all I can tell you is, I mean, as a songwriter, I mean, that's, you just think in phrases and things that are, sound cool, together. And there are actually different ways to construct titles. I actually have a course on it. What is it? Secret title formula, something like that. And so I think I have like 12 or 13 ways to construct your title. But the one that's my favorite is alliteration, because you can never go wrong with alliteration, rhyming, that kind of stuff. So I always try to think in those terms first, unless it just screams out something else, or unless something else just hits me some other way. I was actually on a call the other day and we were coming up with hooks for ads. And the guys, I don't want to say what it was because I don't want to out him or anything, but he had one piece to something that people don't need. Okay. So it's like, well, how do you sell something people don't need? Right. And so we were asking, well, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, well, it makes it unique. It makes it cool when you put this on it, And so I said, oh, so you can be cooler than the cool kids. And they were like, oh, that's amazing, But again, that comes out of my history, what I was telling you earlier, not being a cool kid, right? And so, so then right away, for everybody's, they were going, oh, well, what do you think, Helen? I'm like, I can't always come up with them like that. But it was like at that moment, it just hit something in me that I related to, So sometimes it's just that. It just hits you the way it hits you, but it's also a gift, I guess, to some degree.
And is there any other things? Because if there's, 13 of them or 12 of them or 10 of them, any other things that you can think about that may be important for people to think about as they're constructing a title?
Yeah, that there's a difference between a title and a subtitle. And a lot of times people write the subtitle and think it's the title. Okay. So the subtitle is like, what's the benefit? What are they going to get out of it? The titles are interesting because they can be that, but they can also be a little more obscure. It really doesn't matter as much. Like one that always comes to my mind is Blink. Would you know what Blink meant if you didn't have a subtitle?
Right.
I
don't. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's Blink. How to think without thinking. But if you didn't have the subtitle, it would be it's very hard for most people to understand what that means, but it's still, a big bestseller. So, and that's also, part of the construction, but also it's building your audience. I mean, unfortunately, a mediocre book can do better than a great book if it's got a great title, a great cover, and a big audience. So marketing,
Huge.
But I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was, how did I get into the books? And I said I got into the music first, and then we had a world-class studio in the house I grew up in, and unfortunately, the Northridge earthquake ruined our house, and then my parents passed away, and I had to sell the house, so I lost my living. But we started buying, fixing, and selling houses, and I knew that I couldn't do that long term. And I was looking around for something else to do. But in the meantime, my immune system collapsed and I almost died about 20 years ago. And I had always had in the back of my mind that I was going to write a book someday. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what if someday doesn't come? And there's a lot of people out there who think like that. You think you have so much time, and things can change in an instant. I mean, one day I was sitting at my computer and all of a sudden I heard this thud in the bathroom, and my husband was on the floor in a pool of blood with his eyes going back in his head. And, we to this day don't know what the hell happened. Luckily, the swelling on the brain went down and he's fine, but you just don't know. And it was at that point where I said, I can't wait any longer. I have to write my book. But also what happened was that when my system collapsed, Western medicine didn't have an answer. And my husband got online and found this doctor, and she described my symptoms to a T, and it's called environmental illness. I just became toxic to everything. And and I wanted to work with her, but she wasn't seeing clients anymore. And luckily she had written a book, and that book saved my life. And I almost start to cry every time I say that.
What was it called?
It's called Detox or Die.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
so what was it that you were doing wrong, or in your body, or eating?
It's not,
or like what
I got news for you. 90% of people are doing this wrong. It's called living in the modern world. We have chemicals and more chemicals, and just, there's a lot of toxicity, you know, in the food, in the soil, in the air. And so you really need to take good care of yourself. And the crowning blow for me was I had a situation that was just incredibly stressful after my parents died. I was the executor of the will. There was discord within the family, and it just was a big mess. And it was a big mess for a long time. It was like it went on for 8 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I just had too much stress on top of all the toxicity. Yeah.
And so you talk about what to write. You know, some people say, okay, what do I write about?
But I just want people to know first how powerful it is to write, right? I mean, that saved my life. I mean, books can save people's lives, change people's lives. And you have a unique message to get out that only you can give the way you can give it. And that's really the message that people need to know. So ask me more about how now. What?
Look, well, I want to say that you're absolutely right, Ellen. I mean, you know, books changed my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, in a dramatic way. I mean, I was a young kid, 21 years old, you know, started reading some Anthony Robbins books and Tom Hopkins books, and found some really good mentors. Next thing you know, 7 years later, I was financially independent. So I've been financially free since I was 28. And so,
oh God, you're so lucky. I didn't even start till I was 51.
Yeah. No, I mean, I literally, I mean, I've been living just an amazing lifestyle for almost 2 decades now. It's just unbelievable. And so what you're saying is completely the truth. I mean, these books, these words, these, you know, chapters, they were so impactful to a kid that, you know, didn't grow up with a lot of money, didn't come from, you know, the greatest environment as a young child. And so it was, and of course, you know, now I was a bad kid. I got bad grades. Always got in trouble, lots of fights growing up. And so
I'm telling you, you guys are always the ones that do it. It's amazing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, I quit college. I, you know, just went rogue style, went to be an entrepreneur. And, you know, I woke up a few years later, but I think I was just so coachable. I just followed all these books and followed what they showed. I'm very coachable. Like, somebody tells me to do something that I trust them, that they know what they're talking about.
Me too.
Like,
me too.
Yeah, I'll just do it. I mean,
me too.
I don't need to reinvent the wheel, man. I just want to win.
I agree.
I just want to be successful, right?
But think about how many billionaires quit school. A lot of them.
Yeah.
And the thing that really sucks is, as a good kid who did what I was told and got really good grades, you get in the real world and you're like, crap, it was all bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And that's, by the way, that's a big piece of my book, is kind of the call to action, or the message is, I'm trying to get people out of that thinking, is the 9-to-5 rat race. Corporate America is a nightmare for most people.
Yeah.
And
that's what,
to really get people to see that. And as an entrepreneur, as somebody that did it, I really want to help people. And by the way, and look, and critique me all you want, but my title, and that's of course the podcast, it's called Wealth on the Beach. And that's cute. Yeah. The subtitle I haven't completely, you know, figured out yet, but anything come to your mind as a subtitle? Anything? Wealth on the beach, get out of the 9 to 5 rat race, or
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean, that is what your book is about. So it will be something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but you see, wealth on the beach, again, it's kind of a saying that just hooks you emotionally, right? Because that's what people want. They want to be wealthy and be sitting on the beach. So, but it's hard sometimes to explain that to people. It's like I talk about titles all day long and people still send me these titles that are just so off the mark. It's like some people just, I don't know, they don't get it. They don't get it,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a little bit, obviously I have a lot of palm trees in my house. And although I'm not on the actual physical beach, it was kind of a play on words in the sense that, we all want to be free, and that's kind of the visual that, you're on a beach and you're wealthy.
Right.
Free. But, you could like the mountains, and it's the same, it means the same thing, and
right. But the point is that your title, Wealth on the Beach, it conjures up a certain feeling in people.
Right.
And that's what a great title does. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy.
Good for you. Yay.
All right. So, okay. So I was going to ask you before is, when people think, because there are people that they want to write a book, but they don't know what to write about. So give us your thoughts on that one.
Well, I work with people who are already helping people, right? So, but even so, this is so crazy to me. I was just talking to a client of mine who's now become a colleague, and we're going to do something together. But, talking about how like people have a book and it doesn't even occur to them that they can turn it into a coaching program, or they have a coaching program and it doesn't occur to them they can turn it into a book, or they're working with clients one-on-one and it doesn't even occur to them that they could do the whole, book coaching and get out of the, time for money kind of deal. So I'll never forget, this guy comes to me and he goes, I don't know what to write about. And I go, well, how do you help people now? And he just starts rattling off his process for how he works with people one-on-one. I go, that's your book. But for some reason, so many people just don't make the connection. It's hard for me to understand, but.
Do you think it's scary for people though? Because there's a lot of people right now listening. And by the way, the audience that we're tapping into right now they're all small business owners. They're all, they're all, they have little businesses. They're making anywhere from $50,000 a year up to $1 million a year. They're kind of in that, they're small business entrepreneurs. But I always tell them, like, look, you need a book, you need a podcast, you need to get more eyeballs on your brand so people can get to know you. Like, people don't know you. That's why you don't get more businesses.
Right. But here's what I have found for me was when I started, nobody was doing what I was doing. I was the first one. And I didn't have to know much because people were just flocking to me. But as the internet changed and more people got into the space, then you have to go, okay, how do I explain how I'm different? And I really spent, we rebranded a couple of years ago because what was happening was, I started out as the ebook coach, but in the early days, people saw ebooks and books as different. And now it's like we do one book and we just put it in different formats, right? So we needed to change that. And again, see, I didn't know about doing the research in the early days. And I didn't know that there's like 3 times more people looking for books than ebooks. That wasn't a bad thing. And as I said, when I started, because it was new, digital was new, and, people were looking for that. So it was okay. But we rebranded. And then, I spent 2 years just working on, how do I say what I do? How do I explain to people that I'm different? It's not something that you get overnight. You have to keep refining it and working on it. And as Jill Lublin says, what is it like? Look at your biography like every 90 days, because you grow, you change, you get more things, something happens, you get an award, something happens, you're on some amazing show. So you have to keep everything up to date, and so that's really important. And so it's not just getting visibility, because there have been times when I was out there and out there and out there and just feeling like, God, I'm just getting nothing, like why? And I get really upset with some of these people on Twitter. It's like, oh, well, just work hard for 6 months and it'll happen. No, not necessarily. It's like, you've got to have all the pieces. And the other thing I will say is that one thing that's really changed my the way that I pursue my business is that in the early years, I spent a ton of money on coaches and all this kind of stuff. I spent about 70 or 80,000 the first couple of years. But I wasn't making that much yet. Till I got to the third year, I made a 6-figure income. But I had so much debt because I'd gotten a small business loan, and then they call it in very quickly and they want really high numbers. I mean, I highly suggest not doing that, but I didn't know. And so what happened is like after that, and then everything changed, I was angry and I was bitter because I spent all this money and it was now kind of worthless, like nothing was working. And I thought, well, I'm helping all these other people. How come I can't help myself? And I go, well, I got to try. So then I tried to be my own coach. That does not work at all, because you can't see what you can't see. It's so much easier to do it for other people. And then finally, it was like, I was at the point where, am I going to quit, or am I going to start investing in myself again, because nothing is working? And clearly I made the decision to invest in myself. But what happened was that I had a mentor who told me I should start a podcast. This was actually 2018. That was when I hit like another really rock bottom. I just had enough. I was burned out. And it wasn't like I wasn't making money. I mean, my last client had paid me 15 grand, but I was just like over it all. And it wasn't a pleasant experience. He ended up not being very nice. So I had a lot of soul searching, like, okay, what am I going to do? You have that fear of, well, if I don't take the client when I need the money, what am I going to do? And not realizing that if you just let that go, better people will come in. Like, it's really scary to let go when things are bad. And that's exactly when you need to let go, right? That's exactly when you need to hire a coach. And so at that point, I scraped together the money to do one coaching call, and he told me to start the podcast. So I started the podcast, but the thing was, I still didn't have the money to get help at that point. And so what I did was I did it on my own and following what he had told me. And I was just like miserable. I spent 9 months on this thing. It didn't feel like it was what the topic I wanted, the way I wanted to, say it, the title, just the whole thing just felt icky, And so I ended up dumping it. And then I started my podcast, which is now my podcast. We've just done 101 episodes and I've done about 21 trainings. Thank you. And, since 2018, but that was the wake up call to, I don't want to waste 9 months because I don't want to hire somebody, and I will do whatever I have to do to hire people. Well, I got really lucky because COVID hit and there was training everywhere, And actually I had started before that. I started in January in 2020. And like I said, I never learned really the business. I mean, I had come in at such a great time. It had just come to me. I didn't have to do anything. I just did what I do. And so I started doing that. But then there was so much training. I started going to these free challenges, and taking a few courses. And I stayed within my budget. I mean, first of all, we had gone bankrupt years ago from medical stuff. And so I didn't, and I'd lost all my credit and all that. So for all those years in there where I was kind of sitting, I didn't have any means to get out of it. So I just had to wait it out. And that's what I did until I could build up my credit again. I could get credit cards. And then I started all over again, taking the courses. But now the difference is now I know exactly what I'm doing. I know where I need to go. I know which ones are just shiny objects and which ones are what I actually need to accomplish the next thing I want to accomplish. And then again, being supplemented with all these challenges and 3-day events that were cheap, like $197 to get the VIP, I'm in, So there was a lot of stuff like that. And and then doing what you can do, like a lot of these high-end courses, 15,000, 20,000, 50,000. It's like, no, I'm not, I almost got into one. And then it was like, no, not because, I would have found a way if I really had wanted it, but I realized that really wasn't what I wanted. And I had kind of gotten caught up again in the, in the community of it.
Do you think, Ellen, that sometimes, because I see this sometimes, sometimes we try to get the education for the sake of the education versus, because I'm a big proponent of taking massive action, right?
Yeah, so, me too, but the right massive action, because otherwise it's the busy bee.
Totally. No, I totally get that. I totally get that. But there's sometimes we take a course or we get a mentor or we get a coach and then we don't take action. It's kind of like how many people, I think there's studies on this that most people only get through like 2 chapters in a book or something like that before they you probably know this better than I.
Yeah, which astounds me because I usually read them. Yeah.
Yeah. But they just never follow through on the things. So I'm all for coaching, man. I have major mentors that changed my life, but a matter of fact, I was on my coaching program this morning, Wealth on the Beach Club, and I was actually telling them that the person that recruited me in our business, this guy makes a lot of money from me. I have 49 locations, 1,500 licensed agents, and it's a financial services business that has been wildly successful for 25, almost 25 years now. And but I was telling him, I said, the guy that recruited me, he was lucky because he recruited me. He's made millions of dollars from me, which I love that. That's the way our system works, the way the process works. I love that. But he was lucky that he found me because guess what? I was the person that sought out the information. I was the person that read the books. I was the person that was coachable and followed direction and did the things that the books told me and the mentors told me to do. A lot of people, Ellen, they're just not like that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something else.
And they don't do anything with it.
I'll tell you something else I've learned, though. I don't do something with it when it's something I don't really want. And what I had to come to was that I had to get honest with myself about, what do I really want? And I have found that for women, this is a huge, big deal. And there's a book called We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. And she talks about this. She talks about how women are socialized to put everybody else first. They're socialized to not spend money on themselves. Like, usually it's kids, like they'll give their kids. And my mother was like that. My clothes came from Saks Fifth Avenue and her clothes came from Penny's. And I hated that. It made me feel guilty and bad. And it's also gives your kids a bad message. But you have to know what you want. And sometimes that's not that easy as it sounds for people, because like I said, I grew up in a professional family. I should want this, or I should be able to do this. Like for me, I'm not interested in having a multi-million-dollar business. That has never been my guiding thing. Now, if I had a lot of money, I'd be thrilled. Okay. But I have to have it the way that makes me happy on a regular basis. I have to have it doing things I want to do. And I kept trying to fit myself into this, this round person into this square hole, and it just wasn't working. And it was really hard for me because, I would have preferred to stay in music. I couldn't afford to. I was winning awards, but I wasn't making much money. The biggest check I ever got in music was $1,000. Once my parents passed away, I couldn't live without working. And so, so that was really hard seeing other people go, I'm making all this money. You can do this too. Right. And it's like, but would I do it? No, I'm not going to do it.
Because that's just not what you want. And I think what you've probably come to find is that we all have to really sit down and define what we want our lives to look like. If you love corporate America, well, then God bless you. You're not going to probably like my book. You know what I mean? If you love, and again, I always tell people too, that everybody doesn't have to like you. And by the way, everybody doesn't have to like your book. I mean, if we can get 10,000 people to like your book, it becomes a bestseller, right? So,
Right.
I mean, we just got to get a certain amount, we just got to get, and that could create momentum to help that book, even flourish even more. So, but I think that what you're saying is right on. All of us are different, and all of us have different wants and desires and beliefs. And by the way, some people have a lot of limiting beliefs. We have a lot of limiting things that are holding us back. We say we want this, but then we think like this. It's like oil and water. They just don't go together. You can't say that I hate money, but then you say I want to be a multimillionaire. It's just those two things
but
don't go together.
you've also got to go into your childhood, and you got to look at the beliefs that you got and that you bought into, because I went through therapy for years when I was in college, and I thought I'd gone through it all. And just, not that long ago, when I kind of hit another wall, I was going through Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and I uncovered a whole nother thing that I had not realized. And
but Ellen, I think that honestly, like if we're really, really honest with each other, I mean, a lot of those things sometimes linger with us for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I was just literally having this conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And I said, because I get it, right? I had a not so good. My parents were divorced when I was younger. I was the little kid sitting on the corner waiting for my dad to pick me up. And
I'm not saying you can blame your childhood. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that's clear.
No, what I'm saying is, as you take more action, things are going to either come up or you're going to hit resistance.
Right.
And at that point, you got to deal with it. That's what I'm saying.
Totally. And but then when you deal with it, I think that, and this is something that I learned as a young man in business, and I think this is partly why we flourish so quickly in business, is because one of the things I learned is that we have to all compartmentalize our lives in meaning that we have to put our lives in like little boxes. Like I could look at my childhood and I could, feel bad about it, and I can feel sad about it. And I could, on Saturday afternoon, go cry somewhere and feel bad for myself. Or I can just put it in a little box, put it in the closet, and then go to work, get after it, go follow the mentor's guidance, no excuses, right? Just do it now attitude. I'm going to make it happen. I know it's going to suck in the beginning. I know I'm going to get rejected. I know it's going to be hard to do, but ultimately I'm going to win because I'm just willing to I'm just willing to do what other people weren't willing to go do. And I okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, did you have the belief first that you could do it?
I didn't. No, absolutely not. I mean, I came in as a child, or well, not a child, but as a young adult, right? 21 years old. I'm starting in business, and I'm listening to all these guys that were making big money. And even my dad, because he was a college educated man. I mean, he had a master's degree, USC, student of the year, business MBA program, did really, really well. I was complete opposite. He was my stepfather. So we did have different blood running through the veins. So, but I got a lot of flack, right? So they didn't, necessarily believe in me when I had these grand dreams of financial independence. They said, BS. It's a bunch of crap. It's never going to work. Everybody told me that. And so, hell no, I didn't have the belief. I was scared to death, man. I was like going in the closet crying at night. But then what I did though is I compartmentalized. I said, no. I am going to try, because if I don't try, I'll never know. I'll never know if I don't try. And I think back, and it's kind of scary to think about it. I had a really good friend growing up, and man, this guy bagged on me badly. I mean, he was a jerk to me and really made me feel low and really made me feel like a dummy because I quit college and he was going to go to college and all that stuff. And we were best friends growing up. And I drew the line in the sand and I said, dude, I don't care if you buy from me. I don't care if you join me. I don't care about any of that crap. But if you're not nice to me, if you're not good to me as a human being and try to lift my spirits, or I said, we're not friends anymore. And I cut the relationship. I cut it out. 21 years old, I cut it out. And I never saw the guy again. Basically, well, maybe one or two times. I think I saw him at a high school reunion or something like that. But I mean, I'm so glad though that early on I took that chance to try, because if I wouldn't have tried, it was going to be a long road, and then regret. I would have had regrets all my life that, hey, look, I didn't try, I didn't give it my all.
I hear you. Yeah.
You know, so I'm so glad I did, and I'm so glad that I got this opportunity to talk with you today, Ellen. You've brought so much value, and there's so much wisdom coming out of your words here. And I'm just so excited about reading all your books and learning about all the things that you're doing. So tell us how we can get a hold of you, and how do we connect with you?
The website is Books Open Doors. And we have a Facebook group, which is also Books Open Doors, facebook.com/groups/Books Open Doors. And YouTube, Ellen Violette, youtube.com/Ellen Violette.
I love it. I love it. We're going to go check all that stuff. So if you're watching or listening right now, I want you to go follow Ellen on all of her social media platforms, subscribe to her YouTube channel, go and search her, find out, right? Go to the openbooks.com.
Books Open Doors.
booksopendoors.com. I'm sorry about that.
That's
and
okay.
We're going to go there, and we are going to consume as much as we possibly can. And you know what? If I bet you, if you emailed Ellen or DM'd her or something like that, I bet you she would answer you back.
Oh, absolutely. I love Facebook DMs. You can always message me there. That's the best place to reach me. And my email is ellen@booksopendoors.
Love it. Love it. So we're going to connect with you, because I know that you have some things that you can offer anyone that is ready to write a book and kind of wants to go through that. And I think that we'll probably have a conversation after the podcast, and we'll, who knows, maybe me and you could work together a little bit, and you could help me in my journey.
I'd also love to have you on my podcast and talk about your journey.
Yes, I would love that. That's a done deal. Just
good.
Me, set it up, and let's rock and roll.
Good.
Love to do that.
Good.
So,
but let me just say, we do the book writing, but we also do complete publishing packages for people, which I think is a big part of it as well. And we're just starting to offer book funnels as well. So free plus shipping offers. So the whole thing, if you want to be online and you want to be more passive and you don't want to work real hard to do it.
If I just want to be on the beach and
right. It goes perfect with be on the beach.
I love it. Wealth on the beach. And I didn't have to do much other than give my information. And so, but this has been really, really cool. Ellen, we will be in touch for sure. You're so close to me in the world. And so love that I got to meet you today. And thank
me
you
too.
For your time.
And
thank you. Excited about getting to know you a little more. So with that said, everybody, make sure that you continue to dream bigger than ever. Get after it. I mean, really, really get after it, but make sure that you do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.